I've done it both ways. I've done it rough, and I get criticized. I did it really rough. We had this one guy, really bad guy. He was swinging and punching people, doing it, and I'm screaming, "Get him out of here! Get him out!" The place is going wild. Next day, I got killed in the press. They said we were mean and horrible. 4 people ended up. One guy had a broken nose, a black eye, and I was rough, right? The next day, we had a similar kind of a thing, and I said, "Do me a favor, don't hurt him. Don't hurt him," because of the press, right? Don't hurt him, easy. And the next day, they accused me of being not strong enough. Do you believe it? See, you can't win. You can't win, but we can win. The country's going to win. The country's going to win. We're going to win, honestly. We're going to win so much. We're going to win on trade. We're going to win with our military. Now, I get credit because I was against the Iraq War. Now, 2 years ago, people would say, "Oh, that's terrible." Although, actually, it's about 5 years ago, if you think about it. Because if you remember Jeb Bush, he didn't know what to say. He didn't know, am I against it? He didn't know. Remember, he didn't know. He didn't know what to say. Should he be against it or not? Took him 6 days before he figured out the right answer. That's not what we need. And besides that, he's in favor of Common Core. Why am I even talking? He's got 2% in the poll. But he advertises. He spends tens of millions of dollars on ads against me. So whenever I can, you got to take a shot. That's sort of, I do this in about 10 seconds, and that's the equivalent of him spending $10 million. Isn't it great? But if you look at what's going on with our competition, should we speak about the competition for a second? Okay, first of all, a couple of them said, including Hillary, she said, that's actually much more exciting than Jeb Bush talking about Hillary. Because hard to believe, it looks like she's going to get the nomination, and it looks like they're not going to do anything to her. It's hard to believe, okay? Hard to believe. But if you look at her, she said, "I don't like the tone of Mr. Trump." The tone. What's the tone? They're chopping off people's heads in the Middle East, especially if you happen to be Christian. They're chopping off heads, and she's worried. And actually, Jeb Bush, the same day, he said, "I don't like the tone." Well, the tone is that Hillary wanted to go to war with Iraq, and we totally destabilized the Middle East, and boy, what a mess. And Trump said very strongly, "Don't go to war. You're going to destabilize the Middle East." So, I'm the guy with the tone, but I'm the guy that didn't want to go to war. You have to know what to do. You have to know when to use your military. We used it incorrectly. Now, Obama then came in and really blew it, because instead of keeping some troops and doing what he has to do and not giving an exact date. Remember when he said, came in, gave the exact date and the enemy pulls back? They couldn't believe it. Actually, they thought it was a camouflage, right? They said, "Can't be possible. Nobody can do that. Nobody would give us. Nobody in a million years would give us the exact date." He gave them the exact date. The enemy pulled back, waited. We pulled out entirely, and they just knocked the hell out of us, right? It's a mess. So now you look at Syria. You look at what's going on with Syria. You look at the migration. We want to take tens of thousands of people that we have no idea where they come from. This country has enough problems, folks. We've got problems like nobody has problems. I mean, we owe $19 trillion. Your great representatives that you just sent to Congress approved the budget. It's your fault, by the way. They approved the budget. Did you ever see a budget so fast 2 weeks ago? Right? Another $2 trillion, right? So we have $19 trillion in debt. We're going to add at least another $2 trillion with a budget. And I think that budget took like 24 hours to do. And they funded the migration coming in. They funded all sorts of things that we don't want funded, including Planned Parenthood they funded. You saw that. They funded so many things. They funded Obamacare, an extension of Obamacare. And which is, by the way, which is dying, which is going to be dead by 17 anyway, unless the Republicans extend it. And it's disappointing to me. I'll tell you what's disappointing. We have Republicans. We send them. They sound smart and tough and sharp. And they go and you get elected. We're going to beat Obamacare. We're going to do this. So all the things we want to hear. There's like 7 of them that are absolutely. We're going to win on trade. They get to Washington. They don't do anything. They don't even vote against it. And I always say, they walk in with their wife or their husband. They look at these beautiful marble columns. They look at the angels on the ceiling. And they say, "Darling, we've arrived. We've arrived." And they leave with their tough as hell. They get over there and they're like a basket case, right? Not going to happen with me. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Did you ever hear where they're talking about balancing the budget over a period of 25 years? 25 years to balance the budget. We'll do it much faster, folks. Believe me, so much faster. We're going to make our country so great. We're going to make our country so strong again. We're not respected. You look at the way people treat us. They don't respect us. They take our money. They take all of our money. China, and by the way, I'm extremely friendly with China. Many good friends. I've made many good deals. I sell condos to these people. They're great people. The biggest bank in the world is my tenant. It pays me a lot of rent. I mean, what do I have against China? I'll tell you what, though. I have things against our people for allowing the leadership in China to take such advantage of us. When we have a trade deficit, think of it, $500 billion a year. And then they say, we want free trade. I want free trade, but it's got to be on an equal footing. It's got to be fair. It's got to be equitable. It's not equitable. And then you look at Japan, they're sending millions of cars, boom, pouring through. They take practically nothing, and you people know it better than anything. And when you send your product, half the time, a lot of the time, it gets sent back, right? It gets sent back. And then they charge you taxes. You know, in China, they send their product in, no tax. Come on in, folks, dump it in, everything. When we send it over there, it's impossible. A friend of mine's a great manufacturer. He does business with China. He said, Donald, it's impossible. You can't get your product in, and when you do, they charge you tax. Well, with us, you come right in, and there's no tax. We've got to make it fair. People like Carl Icahn have endorsed us, great business leader. We're going to use those people to negotiate for us now. We're not going to use the donors that we have, you know, where they give campaign contributions. These are people that are, in many cases, just hacks. They're like political hacks. And the Chinese send these geniuses, tough as hell, no games, no smiles. They don't say hello when they walk in the office. They want to get to work, right? You understand what I'm doing. They're not saying, oh, gee, isn't it a beautiful day? So wonderful. They don't care if it's beautiful or not. These people mean business. We don't mean business. We send diplomats and we send hacks, political hacks. Not going to happen anymore. We have the greatest business people in the world. We're going to use them to renegotiate our trade deals. We're going to use them. We're going to do something with Iran. That is the worst deal that I've ever seen negotiated ever. The recent deal with Iran. The worst deal. We give them $150 billion. They've got 24 days, but that doesn't start for a long time because you have to go through a whole process. So they could have months before we can go and do inspections. And they even have the right of self-inspecting. Then what happens is we get, when it's all done and the money's passed, we get our prisoners back. You know what that's going to mean in terms of kidnappings and in terms of all of the extortions, which is basically what they did to us. They extorted us, okay? So the one thing that I hate is no matter what I do, the money's already gone. The money's already gone. No matter what I do, we're not going to get that money back. But we'll get it back in many other ways, okay? And by the way, you see what they're doing with the money? They're all over Europe spending our money. They're all over Europe. They ordered Airbus. They didn't order beautiful Boeings like that one. They could have that for the right price, too, I tell you. They would have it for the right price, Boeing. I love Boeing. But Boeing is here. Airbus is in, it's Europe. So they ordered 118 airplanes, and they ordered them from Airbus. Why Airbus? They're buying all over Europe. They're buying in Russia. They're buying missiles from Russia. You know what they're buying from us? Nothing. They're not buying anything from us. And the one thing, well, they hate us, and we're not so exactly thrilled with them either, right? But the one thing, if you look at it, it's respect. And Kerry goes up the other day, maybe the worst statement of all. He was talking about terror, and probably most of you heard it because nobody could believe it. He said, yes, we expect some money will be used on terror. Really? I didn't expect that. They haven't used it yet. We haven't seen any, but we expect, yes, that could happen. Some, in other words, billions of dollars could be used on terror. Then what the hell did he make the deal for? How do you make a deal like that anyway? And the way you really should have negotiated that deal is 4 years ago, when they had the prisoners, 4 years ago, You go and say, you have to let our prisoners go. And I tell this to people. It's like 101, business 101. You have to let our prisoners go. And they're going to say no. Okay, you leave the room. There's nothing wrong with leaving. I did it the other night for the debate. I left. You know, I left. And I love Fox and I love Roger Ailes and all those guys. But I'll tell you what, they weren't treating me right. They put out some nasty memos. And by the way, if I was there, the Washington Post and other papers, they didn't do very well. I'll tell you, they did about half the number they should have had. They did 12 million. When I was there for the first one, we did 24 million. And they want to put a spin on it, and that's okay. And it had nothing to do with, what was her name, Megyn Kelly? I don't care about her. What the hell difference does it make? I didn't get treated fairly by her, but I don't care about her. I didn't like it when they sent out a memo, and I had to get an apology, and I wanted $5 million to go to our veterans, right? So they said, well, no. Actually, I thought they said yes for a while, but in the end, they said no. So I didn't do the debate. I held a thing, and some of you were there probably. Did you ever see lines like that? We had 800 people. We had 800 seats. We had lines that would have filled up a stadium. And I felt badly because so many people got turned away. People in this crowd got turned away. And we had lines that would have filled up a stadium. And we raised, in 1 hour, $6 million for the vets. How about that? $6 million. And the point is, people have to treat you with respect. Everyone said, no way he's not going to do it. I think the debate turned out to be good that I didn't do it. It was a lousy debate anyway. Boring. That was a hard thing to watch, wasn't it? But it wouldn't have been hard. If I was there, you would have liked it, right? So anyway, but look, but it worked out, and Fox has been terrific. And they were even terrific before. They wanted me to go, but then all of a sudden, the new event took on a light. And it wasn't broadcast on television. They said it was broadcast on television. It wasn't on television. We allowed cameras like these guys to come in and do whatever you want to do. But we had an amazing evening. We had one vet who lost his legs. He gave a talk. It was the most incredible talk you've ever heard about coming home, and he came home a different person. He came home with one less leg. His family didn't know how to react. The VA is not good. It's a disaster. By the way, we're going to fix the VA. We're going to make it so good because our vets are not being taken care of. And at that night, we raised $6 million, and we did it in 1 hour. And I had guys like Carl Icahn put up $500,000, Phil Ruffin put up $1 million, Ike Perlmutter put up $1 million, a guy named Donald Trump, who you probably never heard of, put up $1 million. But I'm so happy, and I guess we have like 18 or 20 groups that are really, really terrific groups that have done an amazing job, and we're going to give them money and let them go and do their job because they've been doing a great job, and we have them very well vetted. But they are going to go out and do a great job. So I'm very proud of that. But you have to know. So I had to walk because I couldn't go in there with sort of like, I would have felt foolish walking on stage and they're sort of taunting, like in football, taunting. You get a penalty, right? So they had to have a penalty. But in the end, it works out. Now, Kerry should have walked. Kerry should have walked. He should have left. He should have said, no, we need our prisoners back. And if you don't give them back, we're leaving. And they would have said no. And now you go back and you leave. And you double up the sanctions, maybe triple them up, but you double up the sanctions. Within 48 hours, they are calling you saying, we're giving you your prisoners, congratulations, please don't do this with the sanctions anymore, and let's talk. Then you go in and you do it separately. You do it separately. You say, oh, by the way, you make sure the prisoners are landed, they're on U.S. soil, right? Unlike a certain person I know. Who's that person? Ted Cruz, who was not born on U.S. soil. It's a problem. It's a problem. He's going to have to solve. He, by the way, has to solve that problem. That is an incredible. The Democrats are going to sue. I mean, he was born in Canada. He was a Canadian citizen until 15 months ago. How the hell can he run for president? And a lot of constitutional lawyers have just, and I'm not just talking about Lawrence Tribe from Harvard, because he said it's unsettled law. But now they're coming out saying you just can't run. You just can't run. And he really can't run. I mean, I don't think, but you're going to have to find out. The problem is whether he can or whether he can't, it has to be tested through the court system. So he has to go in, get a declaratory judgment, do something quickly, because how can you nominate somebody who, frankly, might not have the right to serve as president of the United States? So you're going to be putting your guts and your heart into it. You can't do that. I'm not even talking about the loans from Goldman Sachs that he made that he didn't report, or the loans from Citibank that he didn't report because he wants to show that he's Robin Hood and he's such a good guy with the banks. Should have reported them. Personal financial disclosure form, right? Should have reported them. But you gotta prove that you're able to run for the president of the United States. So he's got a problem. Other people have different problems. Ted's got a big problem. Other people have different problems. And me, I have no problems, you know. Let me tell you, I'm self-funding. I don't need anybody's money. When I fly on that big plane, I'm paying for it. I'm not having Goldman Sachs pay for it. I'm not having lobbyists, and I'm not having Citibank, and I'm not having. I fund it myself. I do it. I pay. It's expensive.